Cheers.
Cheers.
Any introductions? Here we are at Kaz's place. Just Bill and Kaz.
As you know, the polyaesthetic system is a way to map any aesthetic experience. We have three axes that we have labeled here in a three-dimensional space. So the intent of this is to separate science and art so that you can understand the difference between the aesthetics of science and art. So let's look at some of these axes. So we have a cube that's composed of 8 cubes inside. So we have different octants. There we go. So we can look at the different axes. Let's start with the blue line right here. So if one remembers in grade school, you had a number line that in the middle was 0, and going to the left you had negative numbers, and to the right you had positive numbers. So you had a gradation of values. This is similar, except that we're using concepts at the ends of the line. You could take two concepts in space like probable and improbable, and you could have a line in between these two concepts and a gradient all the way through the concept.
I think it's important to emphasize that the endpoints are polar opposites, and the inside is a continuum from one opposite to the other.
Right. And so we have this blue line, and at one end of the blue line we have the aesthetics of direct experience. And what this is the aesthetic object evokes a beauty instantly with little to no effort in thinking about what it expresses. So again, the aesthetic object evokes a beauty instantly with little to no effort in thinking about what it expresses. So that's at one end of the spectrum. This would be when you look at a beautiful painting of a landscape, Frederick Wall, or even the Mona Lisa. You know, if you don't have to at first glance you get the direct experience, the beauty in it.
If it speaks to you at all.
Right.
That's always
well.
That's always
right, but that is now you're getting into the idea of aesthetic value, and that's a good point, because this system is not about aesthetic value; it's about category. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say something like, "Wow, that's not art," and it's like, well, are you trying to speak of it as a category or a value judgment? Mm-hmm. You say it's not art, but is art a value judgment or is it a category? Mm-hmm. Well, we tend to think it's a category. So what you're really mean to say is it's art, it's just really bad art. Mm-hmm. You know. And
I was thinking actually, one example of direct experience that I thought of was like a really cool old Beatles song, for example, mm-hmm. like "She Loves You" or something like that. But it's not going to move everybody the way it affects me, you know. But it is a very direct thing. You hear it just like, wow, right. What a cool tune, and right. You don't think about it much beyond that. You know.
Or everybody's familiar with Beethoven's Fifth.
Right.
That's just pretty direct. You know, doesn't require much thinking. Although then you can go into thinking about the design of the piece, how it was put together, and what it means. Mm-hmm. So at that end you have the direct experience. At the other end of that blue line we have the aesthetics of thinking, which is an aesthetic object evokes a beauty while thinking about what it expresses. So what's important here is you're thinking about what the object expresses. And a good example of this is looking at a proof of Pythagorean theorem. Mm-hmm. And you can look at it and go, oh wow, look at how she put that together, you know, or wow, he put that together. And the object itself makes you think. It's not so much about the design. It's not about what the person had to go through to get there. The object itself makes you think. Okay? So,
Of course, I would throw in the obligatory Mahler symphony here too.
yeah, and that would be in part of the analyzation of the structure, but that would
Yeah.
be more in terms of the design.
Well-
unless you have the ability to see the structure, and a person like yourself could probably
Yeah,
do
right,
that. The general
exactly.
public would not have
Right.
that.
I'm talking about my enjoyment of
Sure,
the Mahler
and
symphony.
and that's what's important, because everybody's going to come at this differently.
Right.
But
But again, it wouldn't be all the way at the end of the pole. It would be
somewhere
near there, but
because
somewhere in between.
because
right.
yeah, you have to think about it in terms of importance. What's important is the aesthetics of thinking that's important in that piece, or the direct experience, and then you balance that out,
Right.
and somewhere in between is where
Right.
it's going to lie on that blue line right
The
there.
mathematical proof would be much further near the end. I
Right,
think.
the
Yeah.
mathematical proof would be way over here because
Right.
they're thinking, because there isn't really any direct experience.
Right.
You know,
Except maybe to a mathematician.
well, a mathematician would want to see, you know, the visual representation of the Pythagorean theorem, and show how it's the triangle has its square coming out. So there would be something in that particular visualization, but the Pythagorean theorem, the symbols on a piece of paper, don't have that kind of direct experience that we're talking about. That the sensual sensation that goes
Right.
through the
I
senses.
understand.
So
I was thinking in terms of if it's a particularly elegant proof, a really high-level mathematician, somebody like Gene Ward Smith,
sure,
could look at it and instantly be like, "Wow, that's a work of art," you know?
Yeah.
You could appreciate it on that level. But
Right.
I understand what you're saying. To most people who would see it, it would be all the way over here. Yeah.
right.
To somebody like Gene, it would be more in the middle somewhere, because it
Sure.
really would be a work of
Sure.
art. Yeah.
Well, there would be some direct experience
Right.
in it, but it's not really sensory experience. You know, the direct experience we're talking about here is really something that comes through the senses, through the eyes, the ears, the
Right.
nose.
Bypassing the brain.
Yeah, something,
yeah.
and,
I got
and
you.
those the symbols is more of a language thing.
Right.
Even though it does go through the eyes, it's not really a sensation, you know, like you get with the direct experience
Right.
that we're talking about.
Like in the case of the Mahler symphony, you have the sound itself that
Right.
can viscerally affect you.
Right. So so really, that's the math stuff is really going to stay over here on
Right.
on the other end. So that's one axis. So let's look at the yellow axis here. The yellow axis is a different dimension. I mean, if we look straight down on the top of it, we have the blue and the yellow at 90 degrees to each other. They're orthogonal. And so we have the aesthetics of non-utility at one end, this yellow line. That's the aesthetic object functions solely for its own beauty. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't function. Great examples of painting, any painting. It doesn't do anything. You can't use it to open cans. You can't use it to hold wine.
Right.
You can't use it to drive down the street in. It doesn't have a utilitarian function. And at the other end of the yellow line, that spectrum, is the aesthetics of utility. That is, the aesthetic object functions for purpose other than its own beauty. This means that its aesthetic purpose is about utility. So the beauty in it is really about the utility. Okay. So if you, you know, a great example of that is a screwdriver. You know,
Right.
I mean, if you're a physicist and understand, you know, moment and torque, a screwdriver can be very interesting. You know, to the normal person, they aren't cognizant of that, so it isn't going to be that interesting. But there is an aesthetic in a screwdriver, even. But of course, then we can look at a Maserati or something like
Right,
that,
exactly.
which is much more complex. But you know, we get also a blend when you start talking about that as well.
You know, it's interesting. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Musical instruments would fit very much near the end of
Sure,
the line.
sure, because the instrument itself functions for utility.
Right.
Right.
It's made expressly to create music.
That's right.
So
That's right. It's not
it can be beautiful in
It
itself.
can be right, which will pull it over
Right,
some,
right.
like a Grecian urn or something. You know, that sits in the middle. It's in between. You know, it functions as a utilitarian object, but then again, it also has its own intrinsic
But
beauty.
it most definitely was designed and built specifically to do this.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
So yeah, a musical instrument would be that. I mean, you know, I think of guitars, you know, a Stratocaster versus a Flying V or something,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
and you get a completely different feel
Yeah.
visually from those two instruments.
Yeah.
So we have that axis, so we can map things along in this two-dimensional plane along both of those axes. And of course we have the third dimension, this green line. And at the top of this green line, and I have top and bottom are irrelevant. There's no value judgment here. We're talking category. So the aesthetics of mental prowess, design. The aesthetic object evokes a beauty while pondering the thought process of making the expression. That's the aesthetics of the design, okay? And at the other end, we have the aesthetics of physical prowess, craft. The aesthetic object evokes a beauty directly related to the physical skill it took to make the object and nothing more. So that gets back to a Franz Liszt piece or something, you know, where it takes tremendous physical skill to perform it. Or the painting of someone who has great technical skill, like Salvador Dali is a good example. There's tons of skillful painters. I mean, you can just go down to your local gallery and see tons of skillful painters out there. So that is the craft. So you have that, and you have a gradation between design and craft. And within this system, you can map anything. You can map any aesthetic expression, from a birthday cake to my wedding ring to the Ponzi scheme. You can map anything aesthetic. And by aesthetic, this word throughout history has changed meanings a lot. The meaning of aesthetics that we're using here is basically anything that evokes an emotional response, whether it's positive or negative. Okay, anything that evokes an emotional response is an aesthetic. So let's look at.
I thought of an example for this end of the green room. Maybe a John Cage piece.
John Cage is very interesting because John Cage really sits at the extremes of everything.
Yeah.
Yes, it's totally designed. You know, it takes. You know,
It's not about
no, it's not about the
physical
physical
craft
craft at all.
Well, it can be. Some of his pieces
Think
can
about
be.
4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it has absolutely no craft.
Right.
None.
Exactly.
None. There isn't a musical piece in the history of music that has any less craft than that.
Anyone can perform that.
Yes.
Anyone at all.
Anyone. Yes. Yes. That's a great example. So let's look at some of these octants. So let's just go ahead and go to, since we've been talking about John Cage, you know, art for art's sake. This corner we call art for art's sake, and that's because it has the aesthetics of direct experience, the aesthetics of non-utility, and the aesthetics of physical prowess, craft. You know, that is, you know, art for art's sake. And that is, you know, just strictly art for its own beauty. I mean, decoration can fall into that category very easily, because there is really no utility in it at all. It's all about the direct experience. And there is there could be some design in it, but a lot of times it's just purely the beauty of the craft itself. So let's go to design for art's sake, the next quadrant up. Not quadrant, octant up. And this is the corner here we call design for art's sake. I think of Spiral Jetty. It's a good example of
Cristo, right?
no, that was Cristo is also a
He's
good
a good
example
example
of
of
that
that
as
too, yeah.
well. I'm having a brain lapse. I was just
I've
talking
seen
about
it though.
last-
I know what
yeah,
you're talking
I'm
about.
just I'm having a brain lapse on that.
And of course, John Cage would fit into that
Right.
octant, mostly, generally.
Yes, that's
I mean,
right.
he's written pieces that do require physical skill to perform, but a lot
right,
of
but
his
he
pieces
doesn't. But he doesn't.
don't. Right.
You know, from his point of view, it's design. The composer is a designer.
Right.
You know, it certainly helps to be able to play an instrument, so that I'm sure. But technically, it would be a designer. So let's go over to the next octant we call crafts or decorative utility. So the corner of this one would be what I call crafts, which is the aesthetics of utility, direct experience, and craft. So can you think of something that fits into that corner? The faux marble they put on walls and stuff. That would be something that fits into that.
Utility, direct experience, and what else are we looking at on this one?
Craft. So it takes physical skill to put it together.
I'm always trying to think of music that fits into these categories.
Yeah, especially with our project.
So what would be a piece of music that would fit into that octant?
Something that required a lot of skill to play. But what about French guy?
Ravel, did you see?
Not that era, a little bit later.
Satie. Oh.
Satie.
Satie?
Satie. Didn't he do some like wallpaper music?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which
It's supposed to be music that you don't listen to. It's just there.
that would actually be more on the art for art's sake because it doesn't have utility.
Right.
Unless you call wallpaper utility.
Yeah.
But it is decorative type stuff. It is direct experience.
But it's music that you're not supposed to like go to a concert and listen to. It's
Right.
just supposed to be there.
I would think that would be more over in this other quadrant because we need something with utility. What about
Oh.
marching band?
Yeah. I was just thinking.
Yeah,
But let's see.
it's really difficult.
So-
That's going to be a big challenge for us is trying to put music in these corners.
Can you rotate that around a little bit so that I can get a better idea of what's going on here?
Yeah, so
So it's more on direct experience, right?
It's direct experience.
And
Down here,
craft
crafts
and
and
utility.
utility.
Direct experience, craft, and utility.
Yeah, here's
Yeah, I
utility.
think a Sousa March would fit pretty well into that category. Or a Strauss Waltz, like I was telling you on the phone earlier.
Yeah.
They would both fit into that, yeah. To a degree, I mean, there's always a little bit of bleeding over into other places too.
Okay, let's look at the next octant.
So what do you call this one?
Commercial art. This corner. It's utility, design, and direct experience. There is, even in some commercial art, there's always going to be some elements of craft in it as well. But
Yeah, I could see this though, like TV commercial jingles and things like that.
yes, something that somebody, especially a composer, because a composer, you can look at that as design. And a jingle would be commercial.
Oh, jingle is definitely
Yeah.
designed. It's made for people
designed,
to
sure.
associate with things, and
It's got utility because it's design and direct experience.
yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah, commercial
Perfect.
jingles.
Yeah, commercial jingles is perfect for the. In fact, I might even change that to commercial music because that's actually better to describe that corner than commercial art.
Well, commercial music is a form of commercial art. You know? I mean, I guess as a visual artist, you're thinking of art more in terms of visual
Visually,
art.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think of it as a broad category that covers everything.
Well, as the more you get into this, the more art seems to separate itself down into, this whole area here. But fine art seems to hang out more in this blue and green octane.
Mm-hmm.
More into art for art's sake and design for art's
Right.
sake
Yeah.
is where the fine arts.
Yeah,
It's in the
and I
commercial arts are over here. And
I
this
guess a
other
Mahler
piece
symphony would be like just in the middle somewhere, or overlapping both
Yeah, it
parts.
depends on how important the utility is for it. Probably not so much utility. It has purpose, but not so much utility. So it would hang out more here.
Oh, in the middle, right in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle of that. So let's do this one.
Technology.
Technology. Technological design or engineering is this corner. So we have the aesthetics of thinking, the aesthetics of design, mental prowess, and aesthetics of utility.
Mm-hmm.
It has a purpose. It's about design. Engineers don't design. I mean, they design everything. They don't build things with their hands, although some of them work in their garage. But yeah, when engineers are designing stuff, they aren't building things with their hands. And the aesthetics of thinking, because there's a lot of aesthetics of thinking within engineering and technical design. So that's going to be a tough.
For music,
Quadrant for
that would
music.
be really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to ponder that some, I think, but you can see how that octave sits in the system. Okay. Again, the aesthetics of utility, the aesthetics of thinking, and the aesthetics of mental prowess design. Okay, so let's go to this one. Right underneath it is utility fabrication. So that would be the people that build what the engineer designs, those craftsmen in the BMW facility that polishes those fenders,
Okay.
and works out a way to make sure that the upholstery looks meticulously perfect.
Put that smell in the car.
Put that smell in the car, right. So that would be in the utility of fabrication, because that deals with craft, physical prowess, thinking, and utility. And so you can start to see the thing take more shape. Now these other two octaves are kind of interesting. There isn't any names that there are some names that come to mind, but let's start with the top one here, and I call it mental cog. Cog being a term I'm using for cognition or thinking. It's about the aesthetics of thinking, the aesthetics of design, but also non-utility. And a great example of that would be the mathematician Hardy, who made his apology because of pure mathematics has no utility. They only care about the intrinsic beauty of the object itself, the mathematical object. And so pure mathematics would lie in this area of cog, mental cog. A lot of conceptual art lies in this area as well. The Joseph Kosu's pieces, the chair is a good example that lies in this.
Which color are we now?
This is this purple
Okay.
octant here. We were missing one octant.
So it's got
So it,
thinking and
yeah, so it's aesthetics of non-utility, thinking, and design. John Chalmers mentioned research, scientific research. Fits into that octant as well. So, and then here's the last octant I'm calling physical cog. And physical cog is back to thinking again, but it has craft. It's not design so much, it's more about craft. And I think of some of these more elaborate mathematical sculptures. Brent Collins comes to mind. He's not very well known among the general population, but he's very well known among the math art people. His sculptures require a great craft, and he doesn't. His approach, he really is not a mathematician. So, but the work is mathematical and evokes thinking. There are mathematicians who love his work because it does evoke the thinking. So it is craft, thinking, and what's the other one? Non-utility. Non-utility. So
can we fit some music into that one?
this is a very interesting quadrant because there's not much in it. It's almost a no man's land. I can't think of a lot that fits in. Keep saying quadrant. It's octant.
Octant.
You know, gosh. This octant is.
He meant octant.
Yes. I'm sorry. I meant octant.
We didn't get my face. I'm too short.
Yeah. I'm just
He
such
meant
I'm
octant.
I'm just such a two-dimensional person. You know. Okay. So that is, the polyaesthetic system,
Alright.
and what the corners define.
I'll play it for you.
One thing I want to add here, we have this cue ball set up, but let's look at something here that I think is interesting. Let's hide these, and let's hide it. Actually, let's hide these. These octants are opposite of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Art for art's sake, and engineering, technological design. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have, with art for art's sake, you have the aesthetics of direct experience, of craft, and non-utility. Engineering, you have just the opposite. Aesthetics of thinking, the aesthetics of design, and the aesthetics of utility.
So in a sense, you can form another axis there. You've got the two polar opposites.
Yeah.
In a way, In a way, you have engineering on one end, and
Yeah,
art for art's sake on the other end.
Sure,
and you can
there's
set up a continuum
there-
between them.
Yeah. You could put a line in between these 2 points,
Right,
and then you have a
exactly.
continuum in between
A
those.
new axis to look at aesthetics. I mean, you're still looking at the same thing, but you're
Yeah.
mapping it a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Since I'm the guy who created Tonescape, I'm really interested in how things map to a visual
Yeah.
perspective.
I've learned so much about art from just mapping things into this system. And what I've realized after, I'm 57 years old, and all this time I thought I was an artist, and now I'm realizing that I don't think that have ever really been interested in doing art. I've been interested in doing COG. You know, these other two quadrants. That's where my interests lie more on this side of the line than it does on this side.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out where I fit myself in.
And there's a new museum of mathematics. You know, George Hart is one of the leaders in that museum. Director, I think he's a director in that museum. And it's really about COG, you know. I mean, that museum was created because art museums don't pay attention to COG. Conceptual art. I mean, how many times have people, you know, berated conceptual art because it didn't fit their idea of art, and it doesn't. It's not art. It's COG. It's over here in these other two octants. You know, it's not in the fine art octants, but people, you know, get the ideas of aesthetics confused. They think of aesthetics as a synonym for art. And aesthetics is not a synonym for art. The Ponzi scheme is really a beautiful scheme to crooks, but it's not art. You know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's so it's that's interesting. Let's you know, I haven't looked at some of these other opposites.
That's exactly what I was just going to say, that, you know, you can create new axes between any of the two opposites.
Yeah, let's look at fabrication. And what would the other ones be? Is art for design's sake. So those are opposites. So we have craft and utility
And thinking.
and thinking. And here we have direct experience, mental prowess, design, and non-utility. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, if you meditate on it a little bit, and I'm going to have to do that, you know. This is a new relationship I haven't even thought of before, so I'm going to have to sit and get a feeling of it. It's interesting as I play with this system and start looking at it and mapping ideas and trying to figure out what aesthetic objects fit into these areas. It's amazing the things it's taught me. Yeah.
Let's look at the two other ones. We have two more sets of opposites.
So let's
or pairs.
Hide these.
We have
What we got? We have a mental cog and crafts, decorative utility. Crafts. Is that what that is? Yes. So
mental cog and craft.
yeah. So this one, we have the aesthetics of thinking, design, and non-utility, which would be like pure mathematics. And the opposite of pure mathematics would be decorative utility. Decorative utility is the opposite of mathematics in this system. So we have utility, we have craft, physical skill it takes to create it, and direct experience. Interesting. Okay, so let's go to physical cog and commercial music, jingles. I'm going to change that right now while I think about it, even though I'm videotaping it. Commercial music. slash jingles. Did I spell that right? Yeah. And let's change it over here as well. Commercial music slash JINGLES. Okay. All right. So we have commercial music, jingles, and physical cog, which would be something like a mathematical sculpture that took a lot of skill, physical skill to create it. And because that deals with craft and non-utility and thinking. And this jingles is direct experience, design. We're talking about the composer of jingles. Design, direct experience,
Well,
and utility.
I would even argue that I think the jingles themselves are loaded with design.
Yes.
Not just the composer, but the actual tune itself.
Yeah.
I mean, its whole reason for existence is to get somebody interested in going out and buying something.
Yeah, but it's the design of the composers that made it. The musician that played it, that would be mapped down here with craft.
Yeah.
Unless it was a jingle that just required nothing to play.
Well, but I think also,
No talent.
the company that requested the jingle probably had, somebody there probably had a good deal of input into telling the composer how to make it sound. Well, anyway, yeah, we get the idea though.
Did we have one more?
Yeah, I think where's that at?
What would that be? I think we did it all.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. I like it. All right, well, thanks for showing me that.